Today, we will examine a book that will profoundly shake up discussions about modernism. A book that has left deep marks and opened up areas of debate in the social sciences.
Okay, I'm with you. I hope to debate very exciting.
Today, we will mention a book called The Postmodern Condition, a report on knowledge. And I have to say, reading it today in 2026, it's honestly unnerving.
It really is. I mean, we call it a philosophy classic now, but that word makes it sound old, detached.
Yeah.
This text reads like Lyotard, literally traveled forward in time, took one look at our world, our LLMS, our data farms, our post-truth politics, and then went straight back to 79 to warn us.
That's exactly what we're diving into today. This is the book that really it invented, the term postmodern as we use it. But our mission isn't just to define a buzzword.
No.
In starting point, we need to figure out how a 1979's book predicted the death of truth as we know it.
And to do that, we have to get into his central thesis, because he saw that computers weren't just, new tools. They weren't just a better calculator. He realized that once you change how knowledge is stored,
You change what knowledge is. You fundamentally change what it is. Yes.
which brings us to that word, the one everyone uses, but I think very few people could actually define. Postmodern Lyotard gives us a definition that's surprisingly short.
He does, he says, and he admits he's simplifying to the extreme. Postmodern is incredulity toward meta-narratives.
Okay, let's just pause on meta-narrative because this is the absolute core of it. The way I was picturing it. It's like the wire around the facts. Science gives us facts. Gravity is a thing. Water boils at a certain temperature. But the meta-narrative is the story that tells us why any of that matters.
That is a fantastic way to put it because science serves truth, but it can't legitimate itself. It can't just stand there and say, I'm true because I'm true.
Right? That's just a loop.
Exactly. It needs a backstory to justify all the effort, all the funding. And Lyotard says for the last few 100 years, the West has really relied on two of these big backstories.
The first one he points to is the patient story. This one feels very French Enlightenment, that kind of vibe.
Correct? This is the narrative where knowledge is the hero of the story. We learn more so that we can be freer.
We invent vaccines to end suffering. We invent democracy to end tyranny. The goal is always a kind of universal peace for all humanity.
It's the Star Trek timeline, basically.
Yeah, it really is. If we just get smart enough, build enough cool tech, we will fix society. We'll end poverty and war. It's a political justification for science.
Precisely. But then you have the second one, the other big narrative. Lyotard connects it more with the Germanic or Hegelian tradition. This is the story of the speculative unity of knowledge.
Okay, this one was a little harder for me. It's trickier to wrap your head around than Star Trek.
It is. It's way more abstract. In the emancipation story, knowledge is a tool to free people. But in the speculative story, knowledge is an end in itself.
So it's valuable just for existing.
Pretty much. Think of it like a giant cosmic jigsaw puzzle that the spirit of humanity is slowly piercing together.
So it's less about saving the world and more about just completing the picture.
Exactly. It's this deep belief that all the different fields, physics, biology, art, history, they're not separate. They're all secretly parts of one single giant unified truth. And the justification is we are fulfilling the destiny of the spirit.
So we have the freedom story and the unity story. And Lyotard's big bombshell is that in the postmodern age, we just stopped believing in them.
We lost our faith, and not by accident. I mean, we lived through the 20th century. We saw scientific progress lead just as easily to more efficient gas chambers and nuclear bombs as it did to vaccines.
So the emancipation story got a little cracked.
It shattered. And at the same time, science got so specialized that the idea of it all fitting together into one big unity just started to seem, well, laughable.
So we're left with all the science, but without the noble story behind it.
Yes, and that creates what he calls a legitimation crisis. If we don't buy the big story anymore, how do we prove that what science is doing is actually true or even valuable? Why are we even doing it?
And I'm guessing the answer to why are we doing it is where the really spooky, prophetic part of the book comes in. The computers.
This is where it all pivots. This is the mercantilization of knowledge.
He argues that as we hit this postmodern age, the whole status of knowledge just changes. It's no longer about building.
Right? Building that German idea of like cultivating the mind.
Yeah, you go to university to become a better person, to be well-rounded.
Forget that, Lyotard says. In the computer age, knowledge becomes a commodity. He uses that old distinction between use value and exchange value. Knowledge isn't for you anymore. It is produced to be sold.
And this brings us to the prediction that honestly gave me chills. It's about how the computer changes what can even be known. He calls it the translation filter.
This is so crucial. Lyotard basically says in the near future, knowledge will no longer be that which is true. Knowledge will become that which can be translated into data.
Right? He says that if a piece of information can't be digitized, if you can't turn it into binary code, into a quantity of information, it will just be abandoned.
It gets left behind.
Just think about the implications of that for a second. We literally stop asking questions that computers can't answer.
A nuance in a poem, a doctor's gut feeling, a complex cultural tradition. If you can't code it, the system just sees it as noise. It ceases to be knowledge.
It even dictates the direction of new research. He talks about funding, which is so practical. Who gets the grant money?
The project that spits out data.
Exactly. The one that produces results you can feed into the machine. If your findings aren't translatable, you don't get the money. End of story.
And this leads to what he calls the exteriorization of the mind. In the old days, the building days, knowledge was something you held inside you. It was part of who you were. You were a knower.
And now the knowledge is just out there. It's in the database.
Yes, the knower is separated from the known. You don't need to know the capital of every country anymore. You just need to know how to ask the database that does.
I mean, I feel this every single day. I don't know phone numbers. I don't know how to navigate a city. I know how to use the device that knows. Lyotard saw this 50 years ago. The danger, because once knowledge is a commodity stored in a machine, it becomes a raw question of power. He sketches out this whole scenario. He uses IBM because, it's 1979 IBM scenario of a company putting satellites in orbit packed with massive databanks. And the crucial questions become, who gets access? Who can forbid access? Is it the state?
Or is it the corporation?
And that's his point about the decline of the nation-state. We're so used to thinking of the government as the brain of society. Lyotard is saying not anymore.
Because the information and the money flows across borders.
Exactly. Multinational corporations become more powerful than countries because they control the data. It's basically the plot of every cyberpunk story ever written.
So, okay, the grand narratives are dead. We're just trading information packets now. How does society even function? How do we talk to each other if there's no shared story?
This brings us to his method for analyzing it all language games.
I loved this section. It explains so much of the friction we feel today. He gets this from Wittgenstein, right?
He does. The basic idea is that there isn't one single language with a capital L. There are thousands of little games, and each one has its own specific rulebook.
So a scientist in a lab is playing one game.
The denotative game. Yeah. The rule is verifiable proof. Is it true or false? But a priest giving a sermon? A general giving an order? A poet writing a verse? They're all playing different games with totally different ways to win.
He lists a few types of moves. You said denotative, which is just stating a fact. But then there's the performative.
Oh, this is a fascinating 1A performative utterance, creates the reality it describes. The classic example is a dean saying the university is now open. The university is open because he said it.
The words themselves do the thing.
The words do the thing. And then you have prescriptive moves.
Commands, give money to the university.
Close the door and order.
So in Lyotard's view, society isn't a single organism. It's just a cloud of all these different games happening at once.
That's it exactly. He rejects the functionalist idea of a unified society, and he rejects the simple Marxist idea of just two classes fighting. For him, the social bond is made of these language moves. We're all just atoms floating at the intersection of dozens of different language games.
And this is where the game part of the analogy gets really intense. He uses the word agonistics.
It comes from the Greek word agon, meaning a contest, a struggle for Lyotard. To speak is to fight.
That sounds exhausting. Can't we just have a nice chat?
Well, according to him, even a nice chat is a game. Every time you say something, you are making a move. You're trying to counter an opponent or reinforce the existing rules, or maybe even change the rules of the game itself.
I guess that's true, though. I mean, think about a standard office meeting. People aren't just sharing information, they're positioning themselves. They're building alliances. They're playing the game.
Precisely. And in this postmodern condition, because there's no universal referee, no God, no truth with a capital T to step in and say these are the rules. We're all just constantly only fighting over what the rules even are.
Okay, but if there's no referee and no big truth, what wins? What decides which move is a good one?
Now we get to the terrifying part. If we get rid of truth, we get a new God, and Lyotard calls it performativity.
Performativity that feels like the keyword of our entire generation.
It's really an engineering term. It's about input versus output. The goal of any system becomes optimization. How do you maximize the output for the minimum possible input?
So we stop asking, is this true? And we start asking, does this work? Or maybe, is this efficient?
Exactly. And Lyotard describes the sheer terror of this new system. He says the new rule is just be operational or disappear.
Wow, that is a heavy line. Be operational or disappear. It explains so much of the anxiety people feel. It's not enough to be a good person or a wise person. You have to be a productive component.
If you or your knowledge or your whole university department can't prove that you contribute to the system's efficiency, you're gone. The system just purges you.
This connects so directly to what he says about education. I think a lot of people listening will feel this in their bones, he says. Universities stop being about culture or emancipation. They just become skill factories.
Yes, under the rule of performativity, the university's only job is to create the skills that the system needs to maintain its own performance. We're not creating citizens anymore. We're creating cogs for the economic machine.
And we should probably mention Frederick Jameson here. He wrote the foreword for the English translation, and he makes this amazing point that what Lyotard is calling postmodern, well, it might just be the purest form of capitalism.
Right? Late capitalism. Jameson suggests this isn't some new phase after capitalism. It's just capitalism finally managing to penetrate the last few places it hadn't fully conquered yet. Our minds, our culture, our knowledge.
Jameson has that great architecture analogy. He compares high modernism with postmodernism.
Yeah. High modernism is like Le Corbusier, those giant, stark concrete towers that were meant to completely change the world. It was utopian, but it failed and left us with a lot of junk space.
And postmodernism.
Postmodernism is like Las Vegas. It completely gives up on changing the world. It just commits to the surface. You know, it celebrates the neon signs, the chaos, the superficiality.
Okay, so let's just recap the world Lyotard has painted for us. The grand narratives are dead, knowledge is a product, the state is losing control to corporations, and the only rule left is be efficient or die. I mean, is there any hope in this book, or is it just a tombstone for meaning?
Well, this is where Lyotard really breaks from someone like, say, Jürgen Habermas. Habermas saw this chaos and thought the answer was to find a new consensus. If we could all just talk rationally, we could agree on a new shared truth.
But Lyotard hated the idea of consensus.
He thought consensus was a form of terror. It does violence to all the different language games. Forcing everyone to agree means someone somewhere is being silenced.
So what's the alternative then, if not agreement?
Paralogy.
Paralogy. Okay, that's a new word for me. What does that mean here?
It literally means to reason beside or beyond the established logic. It's about making a new move in the game, a move that intentionally breaks the current rules. It's the search for instabilities,
So it's about disruption.
in a way. Yeah, but not disruption in the Silicon Valley sense of making money. It's disruption to keep the conversation from dying. Lyotard argues postmodern science shouldn't be about proving what we already know. It should be about generating new ideas by actively undermining the current framework.
He wants us to be the glitch in the system.
Exactly. Don't seek consensus, because consensus just makes the machine run more smoothly. Seek instabilities. Ask the weird questions the algorithm wasn't designed to answer.
So our only real form of resistance is to be unpredictable, to reclaim the use value of our minds, even if it has no exchange value on the market.
Keep the game open. That's how he puts it. If the system demands total efficiency, the only way to retain our humanity or any capacity for justice is to be inefficient, to be unpredictable.
Which brings us to the final massive question he leaves us with. And it is a haunting one.
It is. The text really forces you to ask if legitimacy is now just viability. If the only proof that a system is right is that it survives and it's profitable, is there any room left for justice? Can something be true if it's not profitable?
I mean, we are watching that play out in real time. You look at our news feeds, our social media algorithms. The content that wins isn't the stuff that's true or just. It's the content that performs, the content that gets engagement.
Be operational or disappear.
It's a report from 1979, but it feels like a warning label written for 2026.
A warning, definitely, but maybe also a challenge.
Yeah.
Are we just components in an efficient machine, or are we still capable of changing the game?
Something to think about the next time you ask an AI for an answer and just, accept what it gives you. That's all for this book review.
Keep playing the game.